My famous maitre d' Brian comes to me and says, Mr. Haber, you'll never believe this story. I says, what? He says, you overhear the conversation, the phone call I just had? I said a little bit of it, but not a lot. He said, well, this woman called up and asked me if she could look up a reservation she was in last November. Now, this story takes place in May, so we're talking about 7, 8 months ago. And she says, could you possibly look up the reservation? And he said, well, can you tell me the name the reservation was in? She says, I'm not sure. And he said, well, how would I look it up? She said, well, why don't you try a phone number? And we have a computer at the front desk that takes phone numbers and all the information. And the phone number didn't ring anything. And the girl said, you know, I'm almost desperate to find out who I had dinner with that night. And he said, what do you mean who you had dinner with that night? He says, well, that was my fiance. And Brian said, your fiance, and you're trying to find out his name? She says, yes, we got engaged that night, and I'm about to give birth, and I'd like to find out who he was. I don't know if the story makes sense in the telling, but that's exactly what happened.